elevate yourself, and then they don't talk to you anymore, or they disconnect you, or they, defriend you. That's why. Hey guys, Masati here. Welcome to Xponential Intelligence. This week's topic is on influence. And, even deciding on the title influence, there's so many different areas we can go on influence, like influencing, a business situation, influencing your lover or your spouse, or, influencing your kids, influencing, say, a political agenda, influencing whether you should take the vaccines or not, right? So how do you get into, say, the deeper understandings of what influence is about? And that's what this podcast is about. And there's so many different, say, avenues that I could delve into influence. So it might jump around a bit, so just give you a heads up, which is really good because that's how spatial learning works for you, right? Because you're a 3D being, not two-dimensional, linear. So sometimes if you do listen to these podcasts and you get a little confused, which it's good for you. It's really good for you because it's expanding you into the way you normally should learn, okay? Society nowadays, it's more of a linear learning, right? You learn one aspect, you close it off, and then you learn the next. But that it doesn't really work out well for your brain, and it doesn't work out well for influencing individuals. Okay, you want to always keep a space open, and that's why I'm talking about this. So again, two aspects or 2 points to this. One, it helps you learn and understand the topics of XI. 2, it helps you understand why sometimes you get confused, or maybe some of you even get frustrated. It's like, shit, Moss said something and he just goes off to another topic. I want to close that off. Well, you really don't, because again, your mind has to fester on it. Your mind has to, say, explore the topic on its own and understand it, and then bring in your own experiences or other people's experiences around you to help you understand that topic. Okay? Why is that so important to influence? Well, it's got a huge impact on why you should influence people that way. Okay, one, whenever you're trying to influence people, you give them or you plant enough seeds for them to make the decisions on their own. Right? That's how real influence works, by the way. Right? Most people, like dictators or an abrasive spouse or whatever, they just jam-packed, or they force, right, their concepts or what they want out of you, they jam it into you. And that's not real influence. That is just called control. Right? Negotiations that are held that way, right? There's tons of books on negotiations, how to negotiate. But most negotiations, they're not negotiations. They're not understandings of individual, except one person I know, and I'll try to think of his name. Now, Chris Voss, again, he does negotiation right. Really good guy. So you can take a look at how he negotiates. Again, he uses the power of what I'm talking about, okay? The power of influence, because you want to influence. You don't want to negotiate. So if you're in a business situation, if you're in a hostage situation, if you're in a political agenda situation, whatever it is, you want to, again, influence individuals through proper negotiation. Most negotiations is that you try to get them into, say, a stalemate, or in a situation that there is no way out, and then they go, okay, we'll have it your way. It doesn't really work out that way. So at a political agenda, or say at a worldwide agenda, government scale, for example, okay, the masses, that's what they've done, right? They use the influence of media, they use the influence of, social media, or any other aspect, again, to direct you where you have no other choice. That's not influence, because you always have to, say, support your agenda. You're forcing them to, say, direct you into, you're forcing those individuals to, say, go towards a direction that they really don't want to go. Again, that is not influence. What you want to do, what true influence is, or what XI influence is about, is that they make a decision to go towards your way. There's many benefits to that. There's a huge benefit to that. One, it's less costly. Again, if you're an army, military, political, or a company, corporation, right, running a business, because you don't have to eavesdrop on people. You don't have to make sure that they're doing the things that you told them that they should do. You don't have to do anything of that because you already influenced them to go into a certain direction. Okay? This is where religion destroys itself. Because if a religion was true, you wouldn't have to force people to do some of the things that they do in religion to maintain that religion. This is where in your company, you don't have to force them to follow rules. So in today's society, there's a fucking rule for everything, right? You shouldn't walk across the street, or you should stop for pedestrians walking across the street. That's how dumbed down society. Again, that's a rule. Now, if it was obvious, or if you influence people to take care of others, well, that there wouldn't be a rule or a law telling you to stop for pedestrians on the street. That should just be a given, or that would be a given in your mind. If that makes sense to you. So again, there's so many facets. I encourage you to write in, because there's going to be a lot of questions about this and different ways you can say use influence. And then there's the other aspect of it as well. So one, you want to use influence properly, okay, or how to use influence properly. Again, it's not by demand or coercion, because that's what most influencing, that's not real influence, by the way. There's that other aspect where people always ask me, it's like, hey, Moss, you know what? As I've changed through XI, I've noticed that people around me have changed. Or as I've changed through XI, right, doing XI, I've noticed that my friends, I don't see some of the friends that I have anymore. Or as I've changed, my, say, relationship, my lovers, or, my spouse or whatever has changed, or my kids have changed, or my company has changed, which is really huge. So how does that, and that's the right type of influence. And then you might go, well, I didn't want to lose my friends. What's so positive about that? Well, let me just tell you, they weren't your real friends in the first place. That's real influence, right? So again, you might go, well, that's negative. So I'll just cover that for you. And people ask me, it's like, Moss, through the work that you've done, I've lost a lot of my friends. Again, those weren't your friends. Those weren't those people that will help you gravitate to the higher levels of understanding of who you are. Those weren't those individuals that will, say, benefit you or benefit them. That's why you lose them, because they're not supporting you anymore. You're not supporting them. They were just crutches for you. Okay? Say that you run an abusive pattern. Okay? Your spouse, your friends was accommodating that pattern, or they were creating that support mechanism for you to run those abusive patterns. Well, you're not running those abusive patterns anymore. So why would you need them? Right? And then this is where, again, longtime friends, you elevate yourself, and then they don't talk to you anymore, or they disconnect you, or they, defriend you. That's why. Because they weren't really a friend. A friend is defined by somebody who is there to support you to be a better version of who you are. Okay? That's what an XI definition of a friend is. But most people don't have friends like that. Okay? Most friends are defined, or lovers, or spouses, or family members are there to support the weaknesses that you are. Okay? And then continue on with that. You even do that yourself, right? You're just like, gosh, you know what? I want somebody to love me for what I am or who I am. You don't even love yourself that much. You don't even love yourself the way you are. Why would you expect others to love you the way you are? So again, but the reason why we talk about that in influence is because you're always influencing others to support the weaknesses that you are. Again, very, very different. What masters do, like I'm talking about masters like a Jesus, a Buddha. Why did people follow them? Right? Muhammad, and plenty of others, right? Genghis Khan, Cyrus the Great, all those individuals, Alexander the Great. Again, why did people follow them? Right? They didn't force. In fact, Alexander had this beautiful speech. He had this beautiful speech about why you shouldn't follow him. That one speech alone created an army bigger than any other army that he had. Okay? Why? That was true influence. Because he didn't say, do this and we'll have a lot of booty, and do this and we'll conquer, do this. No, he basically influenced them the way that it's like they brought their natural, their essence of who they wanted to be. They wanted to conquer themselves. And then when you conquer yourself, you can conquer anything out there. Right? Unfortunately, most individuals who influence like that negatively, they conquer for the wrong reasons. Again, you want to use influence properly. And XI influence, you can only use it in its proper term. Okay? And I'll give you examples of what XI influence is about. But you see dictators that are very charismatic. This is the same line. Why? Because those dictators, again, they grow up, they're mavericks, right? They want the right for people. They want the right for themselves. They have that vibrancy of understanding or wanting to know themselves. But unfortunately, they use their influence to create, say, mass awareness or mass connectivity. And this is where they topple over governments, topple over societies, and that's what governments try to do. But over time, since they didn't do it properly, although they were on the right track, they become the victims of their own influence. And then they start turning into a dictatorship, right? Again, they were freedom fighters. They were mavericks for a cause. You can look up a ton of dictators that way, or people who have become dictators, right? What do? What they do is, again, they create, say, an awareness, an awakening. Look at Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs, for example, right, created an awareness. He was the maverick, but then he became a dictator. Again, something that he influenced so many people. Just holding his iPhone would influence you to be a better version of yourself. For example, an iPhone, it wasn't the best product out there, right? It wasn't the most efficient product out there. It costed a hell of a lot more than some of the other phones. But why did you want the iPhone? Because it influenced you to have Steve Jobs' frequency of freedom, of understanding that he was a maverick, fighting for your right to be free. That's real influence. Now, obviously, as he attained, say, popularity, again, he turned into a dictator, unfortunately. So again, you want to do influence right.